The Institute of Internal Auditors presents All Things Internal Audit Tech. In this episode, Antonio Cacciapuoti and Alessandro Casarotti unpack the ethical challenges of artificial intelligence in internal audit and anti-financial crime. They discuss AI hallucinations as a risk to be governed, not eliminated, and examine why governance, accountability, and human judgment are central to ethical AI.
How do you think internal audit can evaluate a system that by definition can hallucinate?
For internal audit, we need to change a little bit the question, because the point is not if an AI system can hallucinate, because by design, of course, it can and it will. The real question here is if the organization is ready to live with that. Because from an internal audit perspective, AI cannot be assessed in the same way as a deterministic system. So the point is not to expect that the result will be correct every single time. For me, what really is important is understanding what the organization has put in place to manage and to mitigate situation when the model can be wrong. So, in my opinion, the internal auditors should focus on three important things. The first is the governance. So, who owns the AI and who is accountable for the use of AI? The second is the control around the usage and not the model itself. I mean that auditors shouldn't try to audit the algorithm line by line, but they should assess if there are human in the loops, if there are controls, especially in high-risk use cases. And last but not least, the user knowledge and transparencies, because it's important to understand if people understand that the system can hallucinate or if the system is perceived as an authoritative source, because here the distinction is very important because it changes the risk profile and the type of control we can put around it. For internal audit, the hallucination are not a technical failure, but it's just a risk, a normal risk to be mitigated. So if you want to put an ethical point on this, I would say that an ethical AI system, it's not a system that never hallucinates, but it's a system where hallucinations are expected and safely absorbed by the organization. So this is my view on your question, Alessandro. And now I would like to shift the focus to your experience in the financial crime space, and I'm really curious about your answer. So based on what you have seen so far, of course, how are the main AI providers building controls to make sure that decisions remain ethical and that these tools are not used for fraud? And please, if you have any concrete examples, just give it to us.
Remain ethical for big AI players is a big point of concern. Lately, I think we had a big statement from Sam Altman of OpenAI, but also from the CEO of Anthropic in regards where really they are looking for also ethical regulation that gives a bit of grounds on how to address those topics and the development that is taking, because it's going faster and faster. Because big AI players have taken different levels of safeguards on ethical perspective, which can be a combination of technical safeguards, policy frameworks, active monitoring, to try to, of course, limit the risk also that fraudster can exploit. But I think, at least in my perspective, the most interesting one is from Anthropic, because they built in their own model an AI constitution which evaluates the answer on a moral perspective. And I think that's quite interesting. That is a private institution that builds in its own model an AI constitution to evaluate the ethical perspective. And there is no public push for having this as a consensus. Actually, we have also very different big AI system, which has been criticized actually for the opposite, to not have ethical safeguards. So I think as a first approach, it's very interesting where Anthropic went, and the fact that it's a private institution pushing for that, and not a public one, even though we know that regulation, at least in Europe, they are trying to ensure that some safeguards are put into place. But then if we look more overall on all other safeguards, I mean, there are several things that have been built in the model, such, I mean, classification on violence detection, toxicity, bias detection, that can run to ensure that the model blocks certain harmful outputs. But that goes a bit also in line with what you were saying before. I mean, and it's how the model was validated, because model was validated, trained by human. And so the famous human judgments needs to stay in somehow, and there's the famous human in the loop that also the EU AI Act is pushing for. I mean, it's important in a gray area and really subjective area, such ethics, to have human judgments that is let somehow also controlled by the human in the end, whether with human feedback, whether with some specific testing, which can be also done by prompts that are studied for that. I mean, there is a specific red team testing also that goes a bit in that direction, also to ensure that social engineering is not used for fraud models, also to phishing or other potential manipulation. So all in all, I think what is important is that we keep in mind that fraudsters are always the one step ahead. And we mentioned a bit earlier, I mean, if they know how to prompt, they can always a bit rewrite the question to move around the ethical safeguards to look legit. And that's why human in the loop is important, to ensure that the model blocks any not legit attempts.
So we need to act as criminal to stay one step ahead. And
you know, usually we used to say as a motto that you need to think like a criminal to catch criminals.
So, and maybe we will talk later about it, but I think also, in your opinion, the human are the main characters. I mean, first human and then machine.
Yes, I mean, I mentioned Anthropic, but Anthropic had an AI constitution made by humans. That's very interesting. I mean, in the end, the human is the one creating the machine. So being the one that creating a machine is to also ensure the ethics in the machine, because it's the ultimate responsible. I said the human has this creativity that can help to circumvent the safeguards. So that's why fraudsters are always one step ahead also of artificial intelligence, actually.
Right.
Because if they know how to prompt, they know also how to circumvent those safeguards. And if we want to stay a bit on this philosophical part, at least what I find interesting is that you need to be able also to, as you mentioned, I mean, you don't need to know how to code and to read all the code, but you need to be able to explain a bit the process to ensure you can audit it. So how ethical is for you to automate a process if you're not able to explain it?
I love philosophy, and here I don't think ethics is just about if we can fully explain a system, but it's more about if we understand the consequences of using that system. Because many processes were never fully explainable, even before AI. Think about some example linked to my asset management world. For example, the complex credit models or the investment decision made by the portfolio managers. We often can't explain every step, but we still have accountability for them. So the ethical problem for me starts when automation removes responsibility. If nobody can explain what the system does, why it does it, and especially who is accountable when something goes wrong, then automation becomes ethically weak, not because it's opaque, but just because it's not well governed. So if also here, because we stay in an internal audit perspective, if we jump in the internal audit world, the key question for me is not if we can explain, as I said before, the algorithm line by line, but if we can explain when the system should be used and when not, and especially if we can explain who is responsible for the outcome produced. So if you cannot explain those things, you as company, you shouldn't start to automate the process. So ethically speaking, for me, automation without the possibility to explain what is acceptable, the automation without possibility to explain, no, it's only acceptable when the impact is low, so when the risk is low, as you were saying before, the humans remain in the control, and if there are clear control put in place by the organization when things go wrong, because things, of course, can be wrong. So otherwise, if you combine just opacity with automation, we are not talking about ethic. It's not ethic, it's just risk moving faster, which is not responsible.
And that's interesting because what you said, I mean, mainly speaking about the risk perspective, is a bit where, at least in Europe, the regulation is trying to give a bit of safeguards when we say, okay, depending on certain type of activities can be defined whether it is low, medium, high, or very high risk, and therefore certain level of controls is expected in the activities.
Yeah, because then the perception of risk can change, and also the control that every organization can put in place to mitigate this risk. But, Alessandro, today the world is more connected than ever, but especially in our sector and in yours, I imagine that you often have to navigate local regulatory barriers from clients operating under different legislation. So with that in mind, how have AI players approached ethical decision when operating under such a different regulation? For example, if we can mention Europe, Asia, or United States.
Yeah, I mean, if we take these three macro regions, I think we can see already three quite different approach on AI and also mainly regulation. I mean, we mentioned already Europe, and we know that also Europe is somehow also teased about over-regulating, but for sure gave us quite clear ground to build up some governance on what is EU AI with the UI Act, and also therefore to ensure that there are some parameters embedded for having safeguards that are brought forward. On that perspective, is way different from United States and Asia, which have more a pragmatic approach also for constant development. Because if we think on an overall perspective, I mean, we mentioned so far the EU AI Act, but at least here in Europe, any big players needs to ensure multiple regulatory compliance. Not only the EU Act is a foundation, but there is also other consideration to do. For instance, the GDPR regulation. I mean, all the data that you are inputting, where are they going, how they are treated, because also this may have impacts on how the model is learning, and therefore also about also some ethical or bias discrimination. And if for you in your sector, in the financial sector, you have even other regulation that goes on top, so the DORA one, the cloud one, the outsourcing one, all together, I mean, it becomes very complex to put a system in place that really fits all activities. But at the same time, I think it helps to perform a reflection in the development of the model and of the need that AI is required to answer, to ensure that all potential safeguards and risk are actually assessed. Because when you have to consider all these regulatory compliance, I mean, the technology is moving way faster, and that need of having a reflection on compliance on multiple regulation help the governance behind AI to ensure that the model is strong enough to assess the risk and the safeguards required. Because if we think all this regulation was potentially written or drafted even before ChatGPT was publicly released, which means that, I mean, usually we say technology is 5 years forward the regulation, or regulation is 5 years behind the technology. So if you consider how much is going fast now, the AI development, this regulation will risk to stay a bit behind more and more. But at the same time, it helps to ensure that when we build a model, we have some reflection on risk and safeguards. That's how I see the things. And that's where the human still clear, having a very important part, since ethics is a very subjective, a judgmental topic. So when you build, when each company builds its own safeguards, I mean, it's managed and built by humans. So this is not a thing that cannot be delegated to a machine.
I'll just jump in because the fact that here in Europe we have a strong regulation, so we are maybe more regulated than other countries. For you, it represents a barrier for technology development, or is just for you an advantage in terms of a more ethical AI compared to, I mean, Asia and the United States?
For sure, give us some time to recover the development that they may have in USA and Asia, because they have potentially less regulatory barrier, but at the same time gives, I think, comfort and ground, mainly when we go on ethical safeguards, because as I mentioned before, the reflection that you need to give and make when you build the model and the governance on risk and barrier and safeguards that you're implementing. And since this is mainly done by humans, I mean, it helps really to have this human in the loop also in the build of the governance, the model, and manage such a subjective, judgmental topic like ethics that can be handled not by a machine, or at least at the beginning cannot be delegated to a machine. Then we go in the famous human in the loop, because it's also part of the regulation that is expected here. I mean, the human in the loop is sufficient for you, Antonio, to ensure an ethical AI, or it's just a slogan?
Well, Alessandro, to be honest with you and of course with all the audience, human in the loop is necessary, but it's not enough. Yes, I have to admit, sometimes it's just a slogan, because having a human in the loop only works if that human has knowledge, has time and authority, and of course more knowledge to operate. But if that person is just clicking approve because the system is very complex or is fast, in that case the human in the loop is just theory, and but I mean it's just theory and you cannot apply that in practice. From an ethical perspective, here the risk is the, as I said before, is the automation bias. Because when AI result, when AI outcomes looks too confident, too good, people tend to trust them even when they shouldn't. So in those cases, the human becomes just a blind approval and not a safeguard. And internal audit, in my opinion, should understand if the human can understand why the system produced that specific output, and especially if they allow to override it without any justification or any penalties. Because for me, of course, ethic AI requires real human in the control, not just a symbolic control. And that for me means that you need to, if I can give you example in what we do in in my organization, in the internal audit function, we create a strong training program, we create escalation paths, we create clear decision limit, and especially a good communication with all the assurance providers, because we need to know if humans really intervene, really go in when something looks wrong. So to conclude, yes, human in the loop, it's a good starting point, but without governance, it's not a control, it's just a checkbox. And as you know, ethics built on checkboxes will never survive with reality.
Indeed, indeed. You cannot put boxes for something subjective.
Of course, you need, as we were saying before, you need to stay one step ahead of a criminal, and for doing that, at least what we are doing, it's you need to enhance your risk assessment framework, especially for this kind of AI fraud. You need to maybe enhance your detection system. You need to anticipate risk. You need to move faster in order to apply the best control you can. You need to increase training and employees' knowledge about this kind of new risk, and also collaborate, as I was saying before, with all the assurance provider, especially IT, compliance, risk management, the other second level control function, in order to respond faster to this kind of risk and to put in place a good control. Now, Alessa, just to stay in the famous real human in the loop, I would like to know, how did you implement a real human in the loop process in insensitive domains like financial crime?
Yeah, we said that ethics is something subjective and very gray, because it's a gray area. When there is a red thin line between what it is ethical and unethical, and it's very subjective. And anti-financial crime too is very gray area, because there are some areas that are not well defined also for law, for regulation, or as we said, since fraudsters always stay one step ahead. They're always trying to find the right loophole of the new technology to jump in. That's the complexities, because we have some great advantages in using AI for anti-financial crime, because it can help you completely to transform the activity. If we take one of the most common controls that you have in anti-financial crime, such the know your customer, so far is always seen as a administrative activity. You collect info, you collect documents, you need to check it off. It's more a checklist exercise. And the AI, it helps to change completely the perspective, because it will help you to automate this part as much as possible, or to identify also patterns, to anticipate certain things that, of course, if you repeat just the activities of checking documents and info, you may lose. To really have a human in the loop that performs the investigative process. But since it's very sensitive, a human involvement is there from the beginning. So that's how we implemented, for instance, when we implemented some AI for KYC, human in the loop was at the beginning. So because the model required to be tested, trained, and so validate and train data and scenarios by human, to ensure that all the different scenarios can be at least considered. But another point is also human in the loop needs to stay after, because as we said, the fraudsters are always ahead. But one thing is having more an investigative approach, so to identifying patterns, learning, so that human in the loop just assess, okay, yeah, this is risky or not risky, and it drives already to him with a predefined assessment, but can have the sensibility and creativity that the machine doesn't have, to ensure that there was no safeguards that derailed. But there is also a very important starting point there, that is the data quality. And that's why a human involvement is the first safeguards there, because at this moment of transition, we are building everything on data that we have. But we know very well also that the data quality is essential to train the model. And that's why the human needs to be at the very first stage also in the model training, because it depends on which model you train and which data you use to train the model. And therefore, the data may also have some biases, and you may create biases in the model even without that you really want. So that's why the human needs to be set as a first safeguards at the very beginning, and also at the end of the process, mainly when we have these risky areas such anti-financial crime. Of course, there are potentially some parts that can be fully automated when you see really that there is no risk, low risk, and there is sufficiently confidence in the data also behind, because of course data will improve along time. But as a starting point, cannot be a machine generating everything mainly in such domain. So we cannot let the machine decide for ethical points. Such a subjective line, machine can help to assess, and the human therefore can focus on the subjective assessment, and able to refocus his activity really on this red thin line that is on ethical perspective, and also to ensure that bias or hallucination checked in advance.
Yeah, but Alessandro, we of course we need to keep in mind that the risk cannot be eliminated. Our work as control function is just to reduce as the risk and to bring it within the organization risk appetite. And here we talked about safeguard and ethical frameworks. So from the other side of this table, how do fraudsters try to bypass those protection to achieve their goals?
Indeed, that's a very good question, Antonio. I mean, so far we always look on maybe on how we implement safeguards, but not how fraudsters try to make the safeguards derail. So, as we said, and again, I think we go a bit on the human aspect of ethics. The creativity is essential, and fraudsters developed. And so, if you know already how to prompt, you can find very good turnarounds. Because if you ask, for instance, to an AI model how to cook books, even those, let's say, with less barriers, but then I think they will block you. I mean, there is dark GPT, for sure that you will find help, but let's say all others, and then they should block you. However, if you ask how I can explain to my audience that is a classroom how to not cook books, then you start to, for instance, look for turnarounds of the ethical safeguards that you may have put in place. So that's really the first type of activity that fraudsters do, really, what is so-called prompt obfuscation. So we're trying to rephrase to try to bypass the filters that an AI system has, like in the financial institution. I mean, they know very well the controls you have to try to circumvent the controls. Like with AI, they know very well the safeguards that they have to try to turn around them. Then, of course, they can also exploit biases. For instance, if they know that AI may have some certain biases, they may act with some profiles that they know that they will be protected due to these biases, and they will get further information, or they can create synthetic identities to bypass AI because maybe more tolerant to avoid discrimination. So that's also the interesting parts, because depending on the different models, there may be a different approach. But for sure, what I see most is that fraudsters have really great creativity. They're always one step ahead. And that's why, again, being such very thin line ethics and the safeguards, you need the humans still in the loop. And for me,
I don't see another way, Alessandro.
Still, at least so far, as I said, also based on, anyway, the limited data and knowledge that we have now, because of it, what I see, also on how the models were built so far, I think for sure there are safeguards, but I'm always conscious that the data quality is the key first components, and how the data quality were input, how the train model were trained, how the human validated the data quality and the model. And so the output generated is the essential part on how the AI is built and learn. So that's why the human aspect is still very relevant, mainly in such a topic, like in such gray areas like ethics, like financial crime, like fraud, where a human interaction creativity still needs to be put in to assess a subjective domain. And that's why I think, anyway, human still will be essential even in development of AI. And maybe also to close, a final question to you. How do you think the internal audit workforce of the future will interact with AI?
Well, I love this question, and thanks for it. And when we talk about the future of internal audit and the work in general, we also have to talk about the new generations. For me, as I always say, AI is an incredible accelerator, but acceleration without any foundation is just dangerous. And here, the real risk is that people stop learning how to do things just because AI will do it anyway. If you don't understand what you are doing, what you are looking for, I mean, you cannot evaluate if the AI output makes sense. I mean, you cannot understand if it's an AI hallucination. And that's how the tool start controlling people, and instead of the other way around. No, you were saying before it's people creating AI, but if we don't know what we are using, will be the other way around. So just prove me wrong, but you learn to walk before drive a car. So you learn to arithmetic before using a calculator, and you learn to read a map maybe before using a GPS. So it's the same thing. And in the audit, you must understand risk, governance, and you must understand controls and judgment before asking AI to help you assess them. And as the godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton said, I'm not afraid of AI, but I'm afraid of human laziness. And I totally agree with that. And because here the key word is use, and it's not outsourcing thinking. We have not to outsource thinking, we have not to outsource training and knowledge. And because for me, AI should come after competence and not instead of it. Otherwise, the next generation will not be improved, will not be augmented by AI, but they will be just depending on it. And dependence is not the future of internal audit. Judgment is, and knowledge is. So, Alessandro, this was a really great conversation about a very hot topic, and it's also very hard, to talk about ethics in this kind of tool, because ethic on AI, it's a very difficult topic. So thank you very much for this discussion. I really enjoyed, and I also want to thank you, the Institute of Internal Auditors. Grazie mille from my side, and until next time.
Thank you, Antonio, and thanks for having me again to speak with you. Always a pleasure, and always a pleasure to be part of this podcast. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Ready to strengthen your audit work with analytics, automation, and AI? Well, join the IIA's AAAI virtual conference on April 7th. You'll hear practical strategies, real-world insights, and earn up to 9 CPE credits, plus a bonus AI Nano course included with registration. Learn more at theiaa.org. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and rate us. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also catch other episodes on YouTube or at theiaa.org. That's THEIIA.org.